Welcome to my Knative project update. My name is Dave, and these are some details about me. Currently, I am a full-time Knative maintainer. I'm trying to make it my livelihood, so if you want to contribute, let me know after the talk. In the community, I'm a serving lead. That's essentially the skill to zero that I'll get into. And I put SC, but that's dumb of me. SC means the steering committee, so I kind of help out with the governance with the project. Kind of see the handles that I use, and I'll move on from there. If you've been to the kiosk, this is sort of like the classic slide that I use, like, oh my God, what's going on with Kubernetes, et cetera, et cetera. This is, I guess, the persona is like an app developer, right? Like app developers are very overwhelmed with all the concerns you need to do in order to just deploy an app in Kubernetes. So what I like to pitch is that Knative is simplified Kubernetes, where we try to simplify development using functions. You can simplify running your apps using Knative serving, and you can simplify connecting your apps together using Knative eventing. And kind of illustrate this in sort of like this life cycle, where with Knative functions, it helps you with templates. You can build and ship source to container. With serving, you can run any container, get routes to them, and also scale that up and down into zero. And with Knative eventing, you're able to publish events to our broker, and then apps can subscribe to those events using triggers, and then you can also connect sources to that event and get events on kind of anything you want, really. It's kind of open-ended. So I'm kind of going to make this talk very demo-heavy, because I figure with the graduation that happened this year, I can kind of walk through it. So let's look at functions. So I'm going to do a func demo. Whoops. Okay, here. I wrote a handy script that I'm very proud of. Okay, can everyone see that? Everyone's good? Okay. Okay, so what I did right now is I did func create, and I did a -L to specify the language, and I named the function square. I'm going to do very basic stuff. This kind of gives you essentially like a Go mod, some YAML as a descriptor file, and like a handler and a test. By default, the code that you get as part of the template is just a vanilla HTTP handler that dumps the request and returns it. Let me continue. Oops, I got a hit. I'm going to change it to take an input. This is my output. And all I'm doing is just decoding it, and then kind of the key thing here is I'm just squaring the number. That's why I kind of called the thing squared. Okay. Now I'm going to build the function. This is where the Wi-Fi comes in, because it might be pulling stuff. Oh, okay, there we go. And it pushed the Docker too. And then now I'm running it locally. So I think the big thing with the function is that you can run it locally, and then you don't have, we have this like local iteration, and then when you deploy, we then have like a remote iteration too. So now it's running locally. I can invoke that function, we just func invoke. I don't even know what the URL is actually when it's doing it, but you can see when you square 9, you get 81. I know that, but my kids don't. And now I'm going to deploy it. Oh, that's interesting. I got to put in credentials. Okay, now I'll look at my password. Is that my password? Oh, this is super sad. Let's do this one. This didn't happen before, but sure. Okay. So when I deploy, it's going to push to the remote registry, and then it should actually then deploy it as a Knative service. Let's see how this turns out. Oh, okay. So I set up Knative serving already on the cluster. So my domain name is margarita.dev. I own that domain, so I don't know. So now I have my function available at square.default, and then when I invoke it, I get the same value back, and now it's hitting the cluster. And then when you create the function, I kind of want to highlight that if you go down, you can see the different languages and kind of templates we have, where we have bunch of languages. We have Quarkus, which is like the super fast Java, we use Spring Boot stuff, and then we support HTTP and cloud events. So HTTP is just very straightforward. I don't know if I revisit the demo, one thing I didn't highlight was that we just kind of don't want to have opinions on the function handlers you write. Like there's nothing like you're importing that's Knative. The only caveat is that we look to cloud events as the eventing standard, which has essentially it's just like any body, and then it has special headers in the payload, and that lets you do routing and filtering and things like that. So with Func, you can we support these languages and these templates. And then I'll skip that. And I think that's it for functions. Let me go back to the presentation. And then this is kind of where I highlighted that easy to bootstrap a function, easy to make it support HTTP, and also make it support cloud events. And you can also build without Docker. Technically, the reason why it was slower is because it was using build packs, but you can just use the host builder for certain languages and it'll be faster. And like I mentioned, you have like on the right these two different function definitions. One is for cloud events, and that makes it easier to interop with like the eventing system that we have. So let's move on to serving. Serving's pretty fun. That's what I specialize in. And then again, this is where you can kind of like run, deploy your apps, and then they scale up and down, and they also scale to 0. I think that's why we kind of call this whole thing serverless. So let's continue that one. I numbered everything. So one thing, in order to run something in Knative serving, you just need a container image. So you can see this is the spec that I'm going to apply. It literally just has the container name and nothing else. So we've applied it. It's already ready, and you can already see I have a domain name set up, hello default margarita.dev. The default is the namespace, so we include the namespace in the URL. And then the key thing to notice here is I set up the cluster with Cert Manager, and I configured Knative to use it. So it was able to go and provision a certificate. And then that's why you can see the URL is already using TLS. We do support Acme DNS01 or HP01 and DNS01. So if you deploy this on a cluster, like I'm using self-signed certs for just having it be local because of Wi-Fi issues. But if you have it on a remote cluster, you can interact with those other protocols. So when I curl it, I just hit the domain. I did K because of the insecure, and I got the request. And it was slower because it actually scaled down. I set the scale window very low, so it scales down after 6 seconds. But if I hit it now, it's very fast. And then I kind of wanted to highlight here, you can see that it's doing like a TLS handshake. This is just curl with verboseness. Let's keep going. So let's update our service, and I'm going to change an environment variable. I'm going to say like the hello is going to target KubeCon North America. So I'm going to apply it. You can already see that like I already have a new revision and it's already ready. You can see that the old one's already scaled down, and I have one replica for the new one. And then when I curl it, you can see that it's already changed. So I'm curling the exact same domain name that was there before. So now I'm going to do something differently. I'm going to show you the traffic splitting option. So I have 50% of traffic going to the old revision and 50% of traffic going to the new revision. So I've applied that. And you can see, technically, when I change the traffic, I'm not changing the spec of the container. So I don't have a new revision. We're just changing the traffic rules. Everything's scaled down right now. So when I curl this, you can see that it routed to the old one. And then I hit another cold start, so you can see now it's like, it should round robin between both of them. So we're getting that 50-50 traffic split. Okay, let's see what else is next. Oh, this part's fun. So the way we do scaling is based on container or request concurrency. So when a lot of people write like, let's say functions or even just basic apps, you might have some global state in your function, so it can only really handle one request at a time. I think this is something that Lambda had. With this container, I can set the concurrency to like 50, 100, because I know it can handle concurrent requests. But when I apply this, it changes then the routing semantics so that when a request hits a container, it can only handle one request at a time. So then we can see that now we have a third revision. It's already ready. You can see everything else was scaled down, the third revision's still up. So I'm going to slam this. Let me do this to make it, actually, no, it doesn't matter. Watch. Can I make that smaller? Oh yeah, that's cool, okay. So you can see my third revision is already scaling down. And I'm gonna use this, and this is gonna, for 30 seconds, have 10 concurrent workers, and then that are just constantly spamming the endpoint. And you can see what happened is the Knative autoscaler panicked. It saw like a huge flood of requests. So then what it does, it goes into this panic mode and then does aggressive scaling up. But now we've kind of hit this stable state where now we know like the request is sort of at a constant rate. So now we're able to terminate some older instances. So you can see we did about 180,000 requests. This is just locally. I guess my computer is very fast. And then we didn't drop any traffic. So I was just kind of highlighting the auto scaling bit. No, I want to quit and then close that. And then we also do change tracking. Actually, when I showed you the revisions, like so, you see like 1, 2, 3. You can see the difference between the first one and the second one is we change the environment variable. And I can do a diff of the second one and third one, and now just the container concurrency. And because we have this change tracking, it lets you let's say you do a rollout, something breaks, technically you can move all the traffic back to the old revision, and it should just work out of the box. Okay, that is serving. And the other thing to mention with serving is like, when you expose app devs to Kubernetes, there's a lot and it's overwhelming. This is why we present kind of like a very, very simple interface like I mentioned. Like you can just use just a container image, and as long as it listens to like the port environment variable, which is I think common for Lambda or some other ones, we'll do all the things behind the scenes and give you a URL, certificate, and so forth like that. And like I mentioned, we scale to 0 when there's no traffic or the revision doesn't have any routes referencing it. And we have host names, rollouts, chain tracking, and help checks. Check the time. Okay, now it's eventing. Eventing is kind of fun. Okay. Oh yeah, and I need to. So eventing, let's say, hey, this is a customer of mine. They're not too happy with the AI integration I have deployed. So let's say like I create a form for them, and then they can submit their complaint there, and I want something to like process it. So what I can do is I can have this service submit like this intake request, this complaint into our broker, and then I can just broadcast it to what's going to handle it. So what I'm going to handle here, or what I want to come back is eventually an event where it's an apology. So I'm complaining about AI, and I expect to get an apology from some system. And then the question is like, what implements this? We kind of decoupled the intake service from what's actually going to generate the apology. And I'm going to highlight what I just deployed. So one thing I've done is I set up this it's a visualization tool called Sockeye. So it's going to listen to all the events and then just display them so we can see the events flowing through the system. We have this trigger here. So when an intake event happens, I have this like structured agent. Its job is to just take this raw text. It's actually going to hit my Llama instance on my computer and structure the information based on like name, email, number, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what model I'm using. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's kind of how it is with AI these days. And then it's gonna, and it's gonna emit like a structured new event. So that way I can then forward this structured new event to this lookup service. This lookup service is gonna look up in a database. I'm gonna hope that I get like an email or something from the structured agent, and then I can then look up some user details and attach them back to the event that's returning back to the broker. And then eventually with all this information, I can pass it to an apologizer event agent. And it's just gonna read all the details, the original complaint, the structured content, and the user details, and come back with an apology. Okay. Oh, I guess I had extra slides. So, okay, you can see I've deployed pretty much everything. And then, okay, this is where the self-signed cert comes in. Let me do this. Okay, there's our complaint form. Okay, here's our stream viewer. Let me make this bigger. So it's, hi, my name's Jane Doe. I'm locked out of some product. I tried to reset, blah, blah, blah. Can you please help me? My email is this. So I'll hit submit. So you can see here's our intake new. And because all these services scaled down, it was scaled down. Now what happened here? Now you have this structure. So you can see here's the content for the first, that came from the form. You can see the structured thing read this content and then like parsed some data. So it kind of broke out company name, even though I think that was product name. Yeah, so the AI is kind of crappy there. Then the lookup table, you can see got the customer data. So it knows like where this person's from, their name, their corp, some customer ID. I guess country and phone, must have been in the database. Then here's the apology that was handled. So let's see. Oh, whoa, okay. So I made the AI sarcastic. So like, oh, woe is me, upon my soul, Jane Doe. Land of the free and home of the brave has encountered a slight of inconvenience. Okay, that kind of worked out well. So yeah, I guess, let me do this. So that's eventing. So essentially, like, we've decoupled these services together, and in theory, I could like pass any like lookup event, and then the apologizer service could process that. And this is done with like binding. Actually, let me show you that because I didn't actually do that. Get triggers. So you can see the triggers. Let's look at the apology trigger. Okay, that's all the details. But essentially all we're saying is like, hey, for this given broker, give me events with the attribute type lookup new, and then just I send it to this Knative service. So there's not really much to setting up the wiring, right? Okay, let's go back to, oh. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. I think I need to go a bit faster. We did the eventing demo. And I didn't really highlight this, but eventing has a bunch of integrations. So you can like, we have this Knative integration source that lets you get like AWS events and funnel those to the broker. We have a bunch of sources and things like that. And again, everything's declarative. You saw the routing. You saw it hit a Knative service that can scale to 0. What's also interesting is like, you can actually target a regular Kubernetes service. So you can use eventing all independently of Knative serving. You can use Knative serving independently of eventing, and also like with the function builder, you can take that container and run it anywhere else. And like I mentioned, I think the last point where it's like you can decouple the producers and consumers from this. So then the intake service doesn't have to actually hit 3 different services separately. And I think this is like one key thing with Knative. We don't want to take strong opinions on things because optionality is important for everybody. So with serving, what these highlight is like the ingress that you could use. So we have a gateway API implementation. You can use Istio and Contour, and we have a lightweight implementation called Courier, which is just like a simple Envoy proxy to do that for you. With Istio, you do get like mesh support, but we also offer with Knative workloads like internal encryption if you don't want a full mesh, but just want something like that. With eventing, I'm actually using the in-memory channel to just pass events along, but in a production environment, you want those messages to persist. So that's where you deploy like our integration with Kafka. We also have Rabbit and Nats. And for functions, we use build packs. So we support the, Java, Python, Node, and Go for now. And I think I saw like Quarkus and like, I think I said Node here, but we said TypeScript there. I think it's worth mentioning Knative and AI. It's always like the, whoa, new thing going on these days. One thing I already kind of mentioned is with Funk, you can just use any regular like agent SDK. Like, for example, I used OpenAI's Go library to hit my Olama instance. And so in theory, it's just the same as an API call, but they're calling it agents when you're just getting an LLM to do something for you. So as long as like Funk can leverage any agent SDK, you can run it and trigger it with an HTTP request. Serving runs containers, so again, like if you can put anything in a container, you can then run anything. So for example, what some people do is, especially for predictive modeling, they make a PyTorch model, bundle a container with PyTorch server and also the model in it, even though it might be very big, but for them it's still decent enough. And you can also set min scale, right? So if you don't want to hit a cold start all the time, you can set min scale and you always have like 1 or 2 instances around. And with eventing, again, you can like decouple your agents. So if I just process events and then the agent like logic becomes just passing to some Python library, like the ADK or whatever OpenAI's new thing is, you can do that. And with eventing, you're decoupling all these systems together. So I'm going to rebrand some Knative things to have an AI spin to it. So Knative Funk, we're going to call FN agent. Knative serving, we can call the FN agent runtime or FN agent cloud. Knative eventing can be called the FN event. Sorry, hold on, this one's harder to say. FN event, FN driven, FN ambient, FN agents. I learned about ambient agents that just only don't have a chat interface, but just have an HTTP request, which I thought was funny. And I have an actual MCP demo. MCP is the new hotness. Let's show you what I can do there. Okay, here. So kind of my point of showing you this is Knative offers building blocks. So how you take those building blocks and use them is you can integrate it with new things that happen without much effort. So I kind of did this like yesterday and today. So, oh yeah, show MCP code. All right, yeah, let me show you that. So I wrote an MCP server. It is using, let me see here, the Model Context Protocol Go SDK. All I'm doing is I'm spinning up a server, and then what's interesting is I'm starting up some informers that are watching Knative services. And then the goal here is these Knative services actually have a title, an input schema, and output schema. So essentially, these Knative services I've marked as tools. This isn't like officially like a Knative thing. I just wrote it, but I just like pushed it to my repo for now. So what this is going to do is when new Knative services come up, so you can kind of see if people are familiar with like Informer code. Let's see where it is here. So when I add a Knative service and it has these annotations, I'll add it as a tool. And then when it goes away, I'll remove the tool. Okay, let's see if it works. Oh, okay. So one thing I had to do is this is kind of like the YAML for the MCP server when I deploy it. I have to give it a role to give it access to read the Knative services. There is the binding, and then honestly, I kind of set min scale because I don't know if MCP works when you scale to 0. I got to double check that. So let's see what happens. Okay, I'm applying it. Okay, and it's already running. It's running at MCP default margarita.dev. So I had, nope, not that one. Did I close my window? Maybe it's here. Oh yeah, it's here. Okay. Let's connect to it. This is an MCP inspector. It's just like a tool to inspect MCP servers. You can see I'm going to connect to this MCP default, my MCP server. This is what happens when you have self-signed certs. I need to do this first so the browser doesn't complain. Then I can connect. Okay, I'm connected, and you can see there's no tools. Let's see what's next. Okay, I showed you the inspector. Here's my add service. All I'm doing is just adding two numbers together, but like I kind of highlighted, you can see the input has the schema where it takes an array of items of strings, which I say is a list of integers, even though it's not really an integer. And then the output will be the computed result. And then you can see how I configured this math container that I wrote. So let's apply that. So it's running. So let's go back to this MCP inspector, reconnect, list my tools, and now you can see the add tool. Let's actually have it. Let's see if I got the math right. 2 times 2, or 2 plus 2. Let's run the tool, and I get 4 back. I guess, can everyone see that? Magic. All right, let's add a new thing. Oh, okay, there's the tool. Now let's add a multiply tool. So same schema, more or less, except I expect, like, everything's the same except the operator is multiplication. So I'm going to apply that. It's already running. I wonder if I can list, if I clear it and list. So now I have this tool there. And this is the same MCP server that I had running, except because I'm informing on what's on the cluster, I'm able to like dynamically update it. I don't know if this is a good thing or not. I'm just kind of showing, hey, you can use it. Let's do, well, I can't do 2 times 2 because the same as 2 plus 2. So let's change it to 2 times 8 and see what happens. And I think it hit a cold start. So let's see if it's going to come back. Oh, here we go. 16. 2 times 8 is 16. Okay. Let's, where is, oh, it's here. Okay, so I kind of like, hey, that was all the existing Knative technology. I just have to write like some tiny thing that took me a day, and now I'm able to like have my MCP server Go library surface tools dynamically as they show up on the cluster, or especially in my namespace. It's your limit is your imagination. That's the demo part. I'm just gonna run through project updates. So Knative now is graduated project. This happened 2 months ago. I don't know if they announced it on the keynote. I wasn't able to get into the conference for it. But I do want to say a big thank you to all the contributors and all the end users. If you are an adopter and we don't have you on the adopter list, please go to this URL or scan this QR code. This takes you to GitHub where you can open an issue, and I'll add you to the adopter list. The more we know, the better. Just because like it's great to capture people's use cases and how they use Knative. This currently is our list of adopters. There's a whole bunch, and I again missed the keynote this morning, but I found out, what is it, Niantic? How do you say it? Niantic, Pokemon Go company uses Knative. It's the first I've ever heard of it, so pretty awesome. So there's like a whole suite of things. Some are hosting Knative for their own serverless products. Some bundle it, and others just use it in-house for their own needs. Kind of working group updates now. For serving, that's my specialty. I'm really pushing on the Gateway API to land a bunch of changes, and then we can eventually make Gateway API the recommended implementation people use, and then ideally that gives people more optionality. And then we landed a migration from OpenCensus to OpenTelemetry. That was a long time coming. Thank you for people who've been patient with that. For the Knative UX, they're going to do what they usually do with UX and review our function CLI and how it is. If you have feedback on that, do open issues, and you can talk to Callum here if you want to be involved. I don't know exactly what interviews they're going to do and things like that. And they also helped get Quack to be an official CNCF mascot. So this is our new mascot for the project, and I guess it's been adopted by the CNCF now. And you can buy swag here. There you go. Model not included, but I can do it better. For eventing, so it's kind of funny because I showed you this whole like flow where so the intake service I wrote, I had to actually listen for events. But now with eventing, if they have this request reply, which then means it could have actually just done a synchronous request, and then something else will automatically listen for the reply that you're looking for and then return that as the response. So that could have made the demo simpler, but I just didn't do it for the sake of demo purposes. And again, we also landed OTel migration changes in the venting integration. Essentially, it was done across the whole project, but it's worth mentioning each spot because it was a lot of work. And then, it's funny, I wrote now eventing now supports, but I didn't finish the line. We support authentication and authorization for events. So you can say, as I'm transmitting events to certain places, who's allowed to receive it, and there's like security features there. In KubeCon London, there was a demo about that. If you watch that demo, you'll get in way more detail about it too. One thing that's also interesting for functions and the client working group with the func CLI, you can actually run the func CLI as an MCP server. So if you want your Claude Code to drive function development and be able to build and run tests and stuff like that, you could set that up. And this is a brand new thing. The operator now supports installation with Helm and Operator Hub. And the security folks involved in the project, they updated the threat model and they updated the administrator docs really well so that people can kind of see if you're an admin, like these are the security concerns you have. And that's it. If you want to join the community, we have a Slack. We have a developer mailing list. We usually like reach out for requests on like something incoming. So when OTel was happening, we did a big email with a big design doc so people can provide feedback. A few people did, so thank you for that. Community calendars and get involved, so knative.dev. And that is it. That's my presentation. I'm glad that the Wi-Fi worked and all my demos all didn't fall apart. Cool, thanks for coming.